Today we're going to walk through a really powerful story. It comes from an 88-year-old man, and honestly, it's a huge warning for all of us about trust, family, and what can happen when the people you love, well, when they make some terrible choices.
The story kicks off with this line, and man, it just hits you right away. The people you are protecting are sometimes the ones most prepared to erase you. That single sentence really sets the stage for everything that's about to unfold. It's a warning shot for sure.
So where is this story being told from? You might picture him sitting in a comfy living room, surrounded by memories. But nope, it's from here, room number 12. For the past 3 years, this is it. This is his world. It's such a stark contrast to the life he built, and it's from this room that he's sending out his warning.
To really get the gut punch of what was lost, we've got to go back. We need to see the foundation of his life, which was, quite literally, built inside the walls of his house on Birch Street.
This timeline really maps out a whole life in just a few key moments, doesn't it? 1960, he buys the house, the bedrock of everything. Then you jump to 2016, his wife dies, which is a huge turning point. Then the critical event, 2021, a stroke lands him in an institution. And that brings us right to today, where he's sharing his story from room 12. A whole life, right there.
And you have to understand, this house wasn't just some building. It was the physical proof of a life's work. For 44 years, he worked as a furnace operator at a steel mill. Just grueling, backbreaking labor. He bought that house for $12,000 and poured his entire soul into it, doing every single repair himself. It was his pride, his dignity.
So, how did it all start to fall apart? Well, after his wife died, his eldest son, Richard, stepped into the picture. And this is where the story takes a really dark turn, starting with something the narrator calls the language of concern.
And this just lays out the whole manipulation perfectly. On one side, you've got the promise. Richard says, "Dad, I'm concerned. We need to do this to protect the house from the state if you ever get sick." Sounds reasonable, right? But then look at the action. The second he gets power of attorney, he sells the house. It's a perfect example of how greed can wrap itself up to look like care.
And here it is, the absolute heartbreak of it all, in his own words. "Like a fool, I believed that a son would never rob the man who taught him how to walk." That just speaks to this deep, fundamental trust we have in our family. A trust that, in this case, was just completely shattered. So, the moment of truth. How did this all actually happen? A moment of vulnerability, a sudden health crisis, became the perfect cover story for what his son would later just write off as a business decision.
It all kicks off in 2021. He has a small stroke. A moment of crisis, right? A sudden weakness that puts his entire fate into someone else's hands. Next thing you know, he wakes up in the hospital. And his mind is sharp. He knows what's going on, but his body is slow to recover. He's completely dependent on his family for everything. But the news, the devastating news about his home, the center of his entire universe, it didn't come from his son. It came from a phone call from a neighbor. And that's what the neighbor told him while he was lying in a hospital bed, thinking he was going to go home. A salt sign was being hammered into his front lawn. His life's work just gone, liquidated without him even knowing. And when he was confronted, what was his son's excuse? It was business. But the narrator, he offers this incredibly profound insight. He says, it is always personal. They just can't carry the weight of what they did, so they call it business. It's such a powerful way to cut through that cold, heartless excuse. So why is he telling this story from room 12? It's not just to share his pain. It's to turn his personal tragedy into a universal warning for every single one of us. He boils his whole painful experience down to 3 huge lessons. First, don't give away your keys. In other words, don't sign away your power and your assets while you're still alive and well. Second, see who your children are becoming. Really look at them, not as the kids you raised, but as the adults they are right now. And finally, hold on to your dignity. Hold it with both hands, because in the end, it might be the only thing you have left.
And look, this warning about betrayal, it goes so much deeper than just money. The real theme here is having a lifetime of trust shattered in an instant. The source material brings up another story that drives this point home. A man who finds out at 95 that his best friend of 70 years was actually his daughter's biological father. It just shows that this kind of betrayal can rewrite your entire life story, no matter how old you are.
After all this pain, all this loss, the story doesn't end in defeat. It ends on this note of incredible self-worth.
It's a message for everyone, especially for anyone who feels like they've been erased. The permission to exist for yourself is granted. It leaves you wondering, what does it really mean to grant yourself that permission, especially when someone else has tried so hard to take it away?